else they would kill him. The trial continues.
And that was SABC reporter Pearl Magubane in the Pretoria High Court. And just quickly, in the Western Cape, the National Prosecuting Authority says it will oppose bail should an application be brought in the next court appearance of the fourth accused in the case relating to the disappearance of Jocelyn Smith. Laurentia Lombard was arrested over the weekend and made a brief appearance in the Vredenburg Magistrates Court this morning, where the case against her was postponed until next Monday. Authorities are continuing with the search for 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith, who went missing from her home in the Middelpost informal settlement almost a month ago now. And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to the production team. It's just after 1. Yes, and Musa with your latest news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
Thanks, Sakina. In our top stories, Ramaphosa admits progress to be made in advancement of human rights, and AKA murder suspect claims his life at risk. Good afternoon. President Cyril Ramaphosa has acknowledged that while there's progress to make, there are also strides that government has made in the advancement of human rights. Ramaphosa says since the dawn of democracy, government has shown its commitment to democracy, the rule of law, and to the protection of human rights. He was speaking at the National Conference on 30 Years of Human Rights in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg. The 3-day conference will see government officials as well as key stakeholders reflect on the work that has been done since South Africa's democratic dispensation. Ramaphosa outlines the pieces of legislation that have been passed that give effect to the Constitution.
The Bill of Rights enjoins the democratic state to the government largely to enact various pieces of legislation to promote human rights between and among people. Among those we have put in place are the Promotion of Access to Information Act, which gives effect to Section 32 of the Constitution, the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act, which gives effect to Section 33, and the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, which gives effect to Section 9.
Member of the ANC's Local Government Intervention Subcommittee, David Mahlobo, says national government has deployed water boards in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal in an effort to deal with the water crisis. Taps have been running dry in Johannesburg following a power outage at the Akenhof pump station 2 weeks ago, while eThekwini residents have also been subjected to persistent water outages. Mahlobo says national government will assist municipalities in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal to help put an end to the water challenges. He was speaking at an ANC press briefing at Lituli House in Johannesburg today.
Those of us deployed in government, our ministry has decided that because these metros, they are struggling to perform this function, we have agreed with them to deploy our water boards, and very capable water boards, which is Rand Water for all the municipalities in Gauteng, working with the 3 metros and the others. But the Metro of Johannesburg, we know they have their own entity called Johannesburg Water. eThekwini, we've deployed Umgeni, Uthubela Water Board to support them.
The Judicial Conduct Tribunal has heard how Gauteng High Court Judge Chifiwa Maumela has previously postponed a matter and went home to Venda on the day it was supposed to sit. The tribunal is probing complaints lodged against Judge Maumela by the Gauteng Judge President Dunstan Mlambo regarding alleged excessive delays in handing down a significant number of judgments on cases he was dealing with. The tribunal, which is led by Constitutional Court retired Justice Chris Jafta, is underway in Johannesburg. Maumela was the judge in the Senzo Mehiwa murder trial before he was removed and replaced by retired Judge Rata Mogatleng. Judge President Dunstan Mlambo elaborates.
On his part-head criminal trials to recess. I've had a few occasions where he would have done that. In one instance, I called him because then I get a call, say, JP, all the parties are in court, the judge is not there. Where is the judge? So I called him and I asked him, do you know this matter? He says, yes, I know. I said, but parties are waiting for you. He was in Venda. One of the advocates in that matter had flown from Cape Town.
Another confession statement allegedly by Bongani Ntanzi, accused two in the Senzo Mehiwa murder trial, states that he was threatened by his co-accused after the contract killing. Magistrate Vivian Cronje, who took down the alleged confession by Ntanzi, has been called to the stand at the High Court in Pretoria. Ntanzi and four others are on trial for the 2014 murder of the Bafana Bafana soccer captain. Cronje read out a statement that claims all the five accused were involved in the murder of Mehiwa.
Karos then pointed to Sifiso and said he must warn me. If any word comes out that they were involved, then he would kill me. Karos and Sifiso then ordered me to go to the kitchen. The four of them remained in the bedroom and they closed the door. Sifiso then came out and gave me 15,000 rand. I was shivering, since I was never involved in such a thing before.
One of the five accused, Linda Ndimande, who's applying for bail in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes, and Tibelo Mutswane, has told the Durban Magistrates Court that his life and those of his co-accused who are currently detained in Eswatini are at risk. The court heard that the accused were also wanted for taxi violence related matters at Mtuba. Ndimande is alleging that members of the SAPS unit, the National Intervention Unit, threatened to kill his family if they did not cooperate with investigations on his whereabouts. His lawyer, Joe Volmerans, read out his statement.
My four siblings were killed by the NIU. The NIU made it clear when they visited my own homestead that they will kill my whole family. In effect, members dressed in black balaclavas with their faces covered except their eyes came in to search for me. My co-accused, currently detained in Eswatini, to be extradited back to South Africa, had been forewarned and had fled and sought refuge in Eswatini. The said members of NIU, as they are commonly known, left a clear message that they would return to put an end to my family.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has acknowledged that while there is progress to make, there are also strides that government has made in the advancement of human rights. He was speaking at the National Conference on 30 Years of Human Rights in Boksburg. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Fly better to your next holiday. Book your flights with Emirates to a holiday in Dubai, London, Istanbul or Paris. Look forward to delicious regionally inspired cuisine, enjoy free-flowing premium drinks, and relax to your favorite movies on the way. Because it's not just about the destination, it's how you get there. This year, fly Emirates. Fly better.
Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Sihle Zikalala is proud to announce that the country will host Africa's largest sustainable infrastructure development symposiums from the 17th to the 19th of March at the Cape Town International Convention Centre, where President Cyril Ramaphosa will also deliver a keynote address. Of course, the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposiums highlights include the showcasing of progress on South Africa's infrastructure investment plan as adapted by Cabinet, unveiling of a pipeline of top 12 infrastructure priorities for project preparation and funding for the 2024-2025 financial year, launch of South Africa's construction book, as well as the new international partnerships and cooperations. Of course, this is all brought to you by Infrastructure South Africa, an entity of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure South Africa, leaving no one behind.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Texini nimva esithi bengaphuma eTV lo uthi makuthini yayasiphelelwa ngamandla oqhubeka least yazi kufudumele ekhaya. Haye ndihambile sohlangana eBhayi sobonana eBhayi. Haye ndihambile sohlangana eBhayi sobonana eBhayi. Namkelekile ekhaya xa benibona bathi molo unjani ndirayitha khonto yeyasiphelelwa ngamandla oqhubeka at least yazi kufudumele ekhaya. Haye ndihambile sohlangana eBhayi sobonana eBhayi. Haye ndihambile sohlangana eBhayi sobonana eBhayi. Thina siyazalana mama zumpepepepe. Thina siyazalana mama zumpepepepe. Haye ndihambile sohlangana eBhayi sobonana eBhayi. Haye ndihambile sohlangana eBhayi sobonana eBhayi.
It is Amifaku coming through with Ebai on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on this fine Monday afternoon. I hope you had a great weekend and managed to sneak in some rest amidst everything that you have to do. There's this sense of fatigue that's just going around. Every time you log onto social media or you catch up with your colleagues, it almost seems as though for some reason this first half of the year is getting away from us. And I don't know if it's the first half of the year or it's a culmination of different things. The weather also not playing ball. You know, we've been under the grips of a heat wave for much of February. And so the hotter it gets, the more sluggish we become. And I guess the more fatigued we become. And also just the build up and the momentum towards the elections. That can also just be emotionally and mentally draining, the continuous onslaught and bombardment, of elections fever. So I don't know. I don't know if the weekends are, allowing you time to rest physically and mentally and just have the ability to decompress. So maybe come Monday, you wake up feeling as though you could have used a day in between Sunday and Monday. That's the sentiment I'm getting out on the street. But it is a brand new week, and we're hoping to optimize and maximize on it and all the possibilities and potential that lay ahead. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to be looking at the increase in drug use, particularly in South Africa over the last 2 decades. And we're going to be unpacking some findings from a recent survey. We're also going to be touching base with the folks from the Library and Information Association of South Africa. And they're inviting all South Africans to celebrate South African Library Week. What a pity we observe and celebrate this week, but we just just heard about 2 weeks ago that the iconic Joburg Library is set to be shutting down its doors. What does that mean about how we engage with these spaces of learning and relaxation moving forward? I don't know. Is there still space for libraries? That perhaps is some introspection that you and I should be having. So that conversation is coming up in this hour. And then on the other side of 2 o'clock, we are going to be looking at ways of self-control in order for us to effortlessly achieve our goals. And we'll find out what some of the hacks that we can deploy in as far as that is concerned. Lots coming up after 2, and I'll tell you more about that a little bit closer to the time. 086 000 2032 is the number you can call if you'd like to go live with us. So 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
I am joined now in conversation by Jessie Copeland, who is a health journalist, and we are really going to unpack this write-up as well as some of the statistics that substantiated the work that went into this piece. There seems to be a large increase in drug use over the last 2 decades in South Africa, and this is according to a study. In fact, in 2002, there was fewer than 2% of people surveyed in South Africa that said that they've taken illicit drugs such as marijuana, cocaine, sedatives, hallucinogens, opioids, etc. But by 2017, this figure had climbed to 10%, so more than doubling. And Jessie Copeland is joining me on the line now. How are you doing, Jessie?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Interesting, right? 2002, we had fewer than 2% of people that were surveyed that said or admitted to having taken some kind of illicit drug. 2017, that number more than doubling. What are some of the factors involved there?
Yeah, so actually it's not just, the survey question is whether they had taken any illicit drugs in the last 3 months. So, as you said, it's increased really substantially. In 2002, it was about 1.5% of people said they had taken illicit drugs in the last 3 months. And in 2017, it was around 10%. There have been a few different factors that have contributed to it. There are kind of supply side factors, and there are demand side factors. So the supply side factors are there's just a big flow of cheap drugs kind of entering the country. They're very widely available, they're very cheap. And I mean, there are a few reasons for that. The one is that there have been kind of big changes in international drug smuggling routes. And this is something that's been, reported on quite a bit by an organization called the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. And what they show is that if you look at something like heroin, previously, the way that heroin would get to big markets in, say, Europe and Asia is, heroin comes from the poppy plant, it gets grown in Afghanistan, and it would get transported by land from Afghanistan over the border to Iran, and then through to Turkey, and then through to Europe. And the Europeans started policing those borders more. There were increased obstacles, and so drug smuggling routes changed, and they started instead taking the heroin from Afghanistan to Pakistan and then transporting it along the sea, along the Indian Ocean. And then it would get to East and Southern Africa, to Mozambique, for instance. It would then go to South Africa and then get taken from South Africa to Europe and Asia and the rest of the world market. And so over time, you had a lot more heroin suddenly that was coming through the borders of South Africa. And obviously this is made worse by the fact that our port authorities and airport authorities are allegedly sort of pretty corrupt, and it makes it easier to transport drugs through the country. So you have all these drugs that are coming through, and those drugs are kind of in transit to the big markets in Europe and Asia most of the time, but they often end up kind of like leaking into the country for a few reasons. The one of which is that those drugs get stolen. In other cases, people who are involved in the trade, drivers, for instance, get paid in drugs. Drug dealers can more easily now buy drugs from this. So in the end, you have a lot more heroin that's coming into the country, and suddenly we now have enormous amounts of heroin in the country, whereas 20 years ago we didn't. So that's one factor.
Yeah.
But obviously, just having the availability of drugs itself is not going to cause people to use drugs alone. Like, there is clearly a desire from people, and part of that is very likely due to the fact that there is just consistent unemployment, poverty and inequality throughout the country. People are turning to substances for relief from difficult experiences that they're having. And in fact, the study that I discussed does find an association between unemployment and drug use. So people who are unemployed are more likely to be taking drugs, which makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that speaks to a whole host of other, as you allude, social and economic issues that are plaguing the country. And I also want to focus on, you mentioned that there's been an increase in the study that you used for the article on the Spotlight. Also shows that there's been an increase in hard drug penetration in South Africa, drugs like cocaine and heroin. And that just also, I guess it speaks to how accessible hard drugs have become, right? And also how almost socially tolerant we've become to the usage of hard drugs.
Yeah, so the paper that I discuss in the article finds that, from 2002 to 2017, the number of people who said they'd either taken cocaine or crack cocaine increased by about 88 times. There are 88 times the number of people who said in the last 3 months they'd taken cocaine or crack cocaine in 2017 relative to 2002. So again, part of it is these, big drug smuggling routes. Part of it is going to be, continued poverty and unemployment. And, there are also other historical changes that took place that, are kind of almost difficult to even control for. During the apartheid period, the country was heavily sanctioned, and so it was pretty difficult to actually smuggle substances in and out of the country because there wasn't that much trade that was going on. When the transition happens in '94, you've now got increased trade that's taking place, which is obviously has a number of economic benefits, but it also just means that it became easier for drug syndicates to smuggle things into the country. So there are a lot of historical factors that end up kind of playing into it.
And I wonder, just sort of in research of this, what is to be said about the lack of enforcement and the lack of preventing this penetration into our market? I think I've come across information that has suggested that South Africa is an easy route. It is an easy route to transport illicit drugs, and it is an easy and affordable route for drug dealers worldwide to optimize on. So what should we be focusing on from a security and prevention of the penetration perspective?
Yeah, so definitely reports are showing that the port authorities are easily bribed, and definitely drug syndicates are making use of the fact that it's kind of easy to pay off port authorities and airport authorities. You even have kind of drugs flowing out of big airports, or Tambo, for instance. So definitely we need to be sort of clamping down on corruption and bribery at the ports. But I don't think, we should just think of it as kind of a policing issue. There are a variety of ways of dealing with drug use that are pretty research driven, that don't necessarily involve policing. So in the case of heroin, for instance, a very tried and tested measure of assisting people to stop using heroin is something called opioid substitution therapy.
Yeah.
So what that means is that instead of just trying to get people to stop using drugs by getting them into drug-free rehabs, you provide them with a medically prescribed opioid, like methadone, which is similar, which is also an opioid like heroin, but is not as dangerous and can be given in a prescribed manner. And there's a lot of research showing that is a very effective way, or a much more effective way, of helping people stop using heroin than drug-free rehab programs. And part of that, allowing for more of that requires kind of a bit of a shift in mindset where, instead of thinking of the drug use problem as like one where, okay, we just need to kind of lock people up, get people to stop using drugs anyhow, we offer kind of harm reduction programs and treat it as kind of an issue that can also be dealt with socially and medically.
Then let me also ask you this, Jesse, and I'm not well versed in the world of whether it's medicated drugs or illicit street drugs. And as you mentioned, for instance, substituting in the treatment of heroin addiction, substituting with a prescription opioid variant. I wonder, is that not, taking away one addictive habit and replacing it with another, considering the opioid problem that America, for instance, now faces with what is a prescription drug, often referred to as a mommy drug, because at one point, the number of housewives that were addicted to opioid. And I wonder, is that not just creating another problem, plugging a problem with a problem?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, basically, the way that they test whether these methods are effective is they'll do these clinical trials and they'll say, look, we've got a bunch of people who are on heroin, and they'll divide them up randomly. And in the one case, they'll send them to like drug-free rehabs. And these drug-free rehabs are often sort of very religious. Like the idea is to often kind of get people to replace drug use with embracing religion of some kind. And then, not always, but often. And then in the other cases, they'll give them opioid substitution therapy. They'll give them a prescribed opioid like methadone. And what they find when they split people up like that is that the people who are given the methadone, and it's often over a long period, so often, it'll be, say, 6 months that they'll be given methadone, and it's in conjunction with other things. They don't just get the drugs, they get like counseling as well and support programs. They find that the people who have therapy that's assisted by the methadone are much more likely to stop using heroin over time than the people who just get the drug-free rehab programs. Okay. So, what we're seeing is that it's actually much more successful as a program. And in fact, our government actually recognizes this in their drug master plan. They say that opioid substitution therapy is an evidence-driven or a research-driven technique to stop people from using heroin. But despite that, there's very little opioid substitution therapy that takes place, very little government-funded opioid substitution therapy that takes place. Okay.
Let's take a quick pause here, Jesse. We'll come back on the other side of this and continue our conversation. 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on if you want to weigh in on this, or 061 410 4107. You can always send us a voice note.
Whether we are at the workplace, within communities, at school, or with our friends and family, we all need to demonstrate the kind of responsibility that we would like to see in our country's future. SFM commemorates Human Rights Month.
LISA invites all South Africans to celebrate South African Library Week from March 18 to the 24th of March 2024 under the theme Libraries Foster Social Cohesion. The week highlights the crucial role of libraries in uniting communities by offering access to information, technology, resources and programs, fostering social cohesion and providing safe spaces for marginalized communities to address social and development issues.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Good afternoon, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Rand Water says the reservoirs are running low because of what it maintains is high water consumption. The city of Johannesburg has been grappling with serious water outages for weeks now. President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa has not only worked to advance the basic human rights of South Africans, but it has also sought to play that role globally. And Gauteng police have arrested a 51-year-old woman for allegedly helping her 32-year-old daughter bury her 2 newborn babies in a shallow grave in their yard in Temba, Pretoria. I'll have details on these and other stories at 2.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
We are in conversation with Jessie Copeland, who is a health journalist and wrote an article featured on Spotlight, which is an online publication. And we're looking at the large increase in drug use over the last 2 decades in South Africa. And the question that I wonder from you, what do you think is at the core that is driving this uptake of drugs, that is driving the trend towards drug usage in the country? 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on, or 061 410 4107 is the WhatsApp line that you can send us a message on. And of course, in the article, you write about, some of these driving trends, and researchers that you spoke to at Spotlight offered several explanations towards the country's growing substance problem. And as we pointed out at the beginning, the first has to do with the international supply. I wonder also, Jessie, were there trends that you saw coming across the various race and class groupings, or was there sort of commonalities that stuck out for you, if any?
Yeah, there are some racial trends. So, firstly, the increase in drug use has happened across all race groups. So everyone, regardless of their race, is taking more drugs in South Africa today than they were 20 years ago. The researchers found that it was particularly pronounced among colored people. It's particularly pronounced among men. It's particularly pronounced among young people. And of course, it's urban areas, it's like cities that are more affected than rural places. So these are some of the trends that are taking place. But this is just, where the problem is. This is where it's happening in the most extreme way. It is nonetheless happening kind of across the country. Yeah.
Oh no, please continue.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Those are the main demographic trends.
Because I was about to, as you talk about that, it's particularly pronounced across the colored community, in particular colored men, specific to youth. And that also speaks a lot about sort of the conversation that we've been seeing on the ground, right? And the penetration that's on the ground, especially if you look at regions like Cape Town, for instance, and sort of the drug penetration that's infiltrated particular communities there.
Yeah, and also, the kinds of drugs also end up being different. So, for instance, there was a recent study that was done that found that throughout most of South Africa, these researchers were basically going to, in this case, they were going to particular drug hotspots, and they were asking people what drugs they were using, and they found that by and large in these hotspots where, people who take drugs were kind of coming together, most of them were on heroin. Or nyapi. Yeah. Whereas in Cape Town, it's a bit different. In Cape Town, crystal meth or Turk is seemingly the most kind of common drug that gets used. So I don't have a good sense of why that is, but yeah, there are different drugs kind of penetrating different communities, or that become, more popular in different communities.
Yeah. Our lines are open. Perhaps let's go to a WhatsApp. We've got Anonymous out in PE. How are you doing, Anonymous?
I'm good. Just a quick one.
Yeah.
The thing about hard drugs, crack cocaine and heroin, I've happened to travel the world, and I've got personal experiences with some family members and so on. So I speak from first-hand knowledge. You realize mostly that it is to do with depraved communities, if I can use the word depraved communities, where there is hopelessness and joblessness and no social amenities is where it is concentrated mostly. And the thing about helping an addict to overcome the addiction, something like methadone. Methadone is even more deadlier than the heroin itself, because the withdrawal symptoms from methadone, I've witnessed, like I said first, and it's severe, it's intense. So I think to overcome addiction, unless the person is willing, the addict himself, with family members rallying behind him, showing him love, and perhaps putting the person in a different environment from where he is. I don't think anything is going to work. That's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much for the call. Let's go to the East Rand now. Lihle, how are you?
I'm good, Kathy, and you?
I'm good. It's Bridget. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest problems is that as much as they say that Dacha is not the gateway to other drugs, but we're seeing a mixed pattern whereby Dacha is laced with heroin in other places.
Mm-hmm.
I once saw a 14-year-old drug of substance abuse results. There was crystal meth, there was heroin, but the child was also Dacha, but the child was adamant that he only took Dacha. So if we could, especially because we have school health teams that go to every school for immunizations and all that, if they could identify at least kids, those kids will be kids that are showing behavioral problems at school, like truancy, like difficult conduct and all that, and they be diverted to mental health care before we get into other problems. Yeah, and also if drug dependency could just be classified under mental health care, whereby it's not a separate program that should come from somewhere else. Because we do get people that end up having psychosis due to drug use, you know. And the cost of methadone or Suboxone is very prohibitive for most families. But if we could incorporate this into the basic primary health care that goes into the communities, because you have mobile stations in the communities and also in schools as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's a very complex problem that no vertical program can actually sort out.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call, Lihle. Jesse, what Lihle is saying, thanks a lot, Lihle. Jesse, what Lihle is speaking to here is also innovative and perhaps comprehensive ways of tackling a drug problem that's become out of control. I mean, I recall last year we had a conversation with a professor on the back of some research. I can't remember the exact territory now in Europe that had piloted what they called drug safety houses. And in these houses, you know, environments where you could come in, you could use your drugs with clean syringes that were available, nurses that have been on hand, psychologists that are there if you're having a bad trip or you need someone to talk to, or it just happens on that day is the day you take the decision that you want to go on rehab. And such programs, though quite polarizing when being introduced, and I remember when we had the conversation, our lines lit up all green. Statistically, the data showed from the territories that had used these unconventional methods that it actually assisted in bringing the usage numbers down, because you deal with stigma, you deal with discrimination, you treat drug usage as a mental health problem like you would treat any other problem, and then you put in the structures and the safety places for people to come to seek help.
Yeah, I mean, all of these kind of measures are all under the title of what they call harm reduction. And the idea is like, okay, that there are going to be heroin users, for instance, where we're not necessarily going to be able to just stop them from using drugs by just policing them or telling them to stop using. And at the same time, we've got this issue where they don't trust, institutions. They're not going to seek medical care. They're not going to go to the police when they have issues because it's a criminalized thing. And if you create these spaces where, as you say, it's a kind of safe space, they can get clean needles and so on, then you can allow institutions like health authorities to actually help those people and to reach out to them. I also just want to say something quickly on the first person, who mentioned that, the drugs that are affecting their community are often related to like depression, and I think that's like absolutely right. It's like often people are seeking drugs, as a way to kind of solve certain problems that they have. It serves a particular function for them, and over time, and maybe in the short term it is helpful for them, but in the long term it becomes addictive. But what they said about methadone isn't right. Methadone, with regards to withdrawal, methadone is like a clinically proven way to help people. It doesn't solve everything, but it does help people with withdrawal symptoms from heroin. Like the biggest issue when people stop taking heroin is that they suffer from really bad withdrawal, and it feels like this terrible feverish feeling. And the way that they solve that terrible feverish feeling is by taking more heroin. Methadone provides a substitute for that, where if it's taken in a medically prescribed way, and if it's taken according to the way that doctors have prescribed it, it can help people with those withdrawal symptoms without taking heroin, which is much more harmful than methadone.
I see.
Yeah.
Let's go to WhatsApp quickly. Let's jump to some voice notes.
Hi, Bridget. Good afternoon. It's Nora in Heidelberg. Bridget, in my area, what I've noticed here in my neighborhood is youngsters drinking this cough mixture called Still Pain. It's called Still Pain, if I'm getting the name correctly, and they mix it with Sprite, that kind of thing, Cool Time. And they can sit around. I have a shop around here, and they can sit around the whole day drinking this thing, and they become zombies. I'm just wondering, what are the effects of that thing, and how heavy a drug is it? Because they're just drinking it like water the whole day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I mean, can we ever keep up with the different variants of concoctions and addictive substances and drugs and things, and how people mix and et cetera, et cetera? It just seems like, they're always ahead of the game. But just as we part ways, just any final thoughts on this conversation, Jesse?
I mean, the concoction that I think that caller was speaking about, there is like an increase in the use of something called lean, where people mix codeine, which can be medically prescribed. It can be used as like a painkiller that people get, and it can also be abused. And they like mix it with cool drinks. There was a very good article in Becky Sisa, written by a reporter named Zanu Kunene, that discusses that. And in general, it's part of a wider opioid problem. Drugs, when people abuse drugs like opioids, they become kind of more, they can become kind of disoriented and spaced out, and so that is what I think that person was talking about. It's part of the broader opioid problem that requires a combination of strategies.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there for this afternoon. Jesse Copland, thank you so much for the conversation. Jesse is a health journalist, and that article is up on Spotlight. Let's take a quick break, and then we come back and we get into conversations around South African libraries.
Greetings, fellow South Africans. I am Ronald Lamula, Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. South Africa celebrates 30 years of constitutional democracy and human rights this year. As we reflect on this significant milestone, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development is convening a national conference to assess progress and chart the way forward in advancing human rights since 1994. This will be hosted from the 18th to the 20th of March 2024, with the 21st of March 2024 dedicated related to the commemoration of the National Human Rights Day. The conference will gather key stakeholders from government, civil society, academia, as well as international delegates to discuss under the theme 3 Decades of Respect for and Promotion of Human Rights. We will emerge from the conference with recommendations that will inform our collective effort towards a future where a human rights culture is ingrained. Follow the conference in the media and our platforms to play your part in moving our country forward. I thank you.
There are new and exciting moves for the SABC2 Familia from the 4th of March. The life-changing game show Deal or No Deal with Katlego Boy officially moved to SABC2 weekdays at 6:30 p.m. It's where you belong.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Catching up now with Nazim Hadi, who's the president of the Library and Information Association of South Africa. LISA invites all South Africans to celebrate South African Library Week, which kicks off today until the 24th. How are you doing, Nazim?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much. So this year's theme is Libraries Foster Social Cohesion. Unpack that briefly for us.
Okay, so we obviously have always believed that libraries play an important role in South Africa, or in the communities that we serve. And if we look at the concept of social cohesion, we believe that libraries are crucial to achieving social cohesion in South Africa. One of the things that we think we are extremely good at as a particular service is uniting communities. Communities from diverse backgrounds. We provide the space and the opportunity for them to come together, to exchange ideas, to learn, to engage in cultural as well as intellectual activities. And so we believe that libraries are well placed to give effect to the concept of social cohesion. A library, in essence, is an inclusive space. It is open to everybody. It does not discriminate, regardless of gender, race, etc. And as such, what better space for people to actually come together and actually try and find those commonalities that actually unites us.
Absolutely. And I wonder, the role of libraries, is it one that's still significant as we move to other mediums? I was quite disheartened by the fact that the Joburg Library, for instance, is shutting down its doors.
I believe that it is. I think using the example of the Joburg Public Library, it's obviously, it's led to this outcry about the library, about the closing down of the space, etc., to bring about these repairs. And if I can maybe just stand still for a moment there. It is a heritage building, and I think people need to understand that it comes with its kind of complications, that it's not like a normal building where you just go in and you fix something. But having said that, I think what we also need to acknowledge is that it's the serious underfunding of libraries, and that includes the maintenance of libraries. And so what we're seeing playing out in Joburg is that lack of funding, the lack of caring and maintaining of buildings, and especially with heritage buildings that require over and above what you would normally do with a normal library. And I think that's an important issue to highlight, is that we can talk about libraries and how well they're used, etc. But if we don't actually look after it, we don't supply the funding for them, then they are going to fall apart. And so to come to your original question about whether libraries are needed in the form, in terms of how we've known it, I believe that it is. If we look at the outcry of the Joburg Library, it tells me that people think it is an important space. I recently, over the weekend, attended the opening of a library in Cookhouse in the Eastern Cape, which is a fairly it's a very far-flung place. It's very much isolated in a sense, and yet people welcome the addition of a library, honoring one of the people from there, naming it after that person. So I think people understand the value of a library. People understand the need for a library, and more we see people saying, but we want a library in our community. So I do think that people understand that. People want that space to go to. What the library offers, I think, is evolving.
Yeah.
So apart from just being a place where you go and you get a book off a shelf and you read it, much of our library spaces is about being a gathering place, providing space for people to meet people, to do their homework, to just socialize sometimes.
Yeah.
But it also has become that space where, you go for Wi-Fi, you go to use a computer, and so the library has also had to evolve to actually meet those demands that people actually want from a library in South Africa today.
And just as we wrap it up in our final moments, Nazim, I'm glad you bring that up, because I was going to ask about libraries' abilities to innovate and move with the times, considering how our engagement with information has also changed in recent decades.
Yeah, no, I think libraries are moving with the times. I think sometimes it moves slower than we would want to in South Africa. I think also the type of library, it moves differently. So if you look at a university library, it's probably at a much more advanced pace than what, say, a public library is, or even a school library. That's if a school library actually exists in the school. But very often what we find is that innovation, in a sense, forces us to keep pace with what people are actually wanting from us. So I believe that libraries are evolving, maybe not at the pace that everybody would like, but we do innovate, we do provide the kind of services that people do want, including things, for example, like e-books, e-resources, etc. And so in order not to be left behind, we need to become those spaces that do innovate.
Yeah, that was Nazim Hadi. Thank you so much for the conversation. Nazim is the president of the Library and Information Association of South Africa. This week, celebrating and commemorating the South African Library Week, which commences today and runs until the 24th of March under the theme Libraries Foster Social Cohesion. And of course, you know that, as he says, libraries are a place that stimulates social cohesion by fostering inclusion. They also allow us to be able to support the visions of sustainable development goals, and they're a place for us to gather as communities as well, and to exchange and educate, and really just share in our lived experience, our histories and information. So with that reminder, be sure to visit your local library this week and check out a book. It is just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
LISER invites all South Africans to celebrate South African Library Week from today, March 18th, until the 24th, 2024, under the theme Libraries Foster Social Cohesion. The week highlights the crucial role of libraries in uniting communities by offering access to information, technology, resources, and programs, fostering social cohesion, and, of course, providing safe spaces for marginalized communities to address social and development issues.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Kabamba. My school bag is not as heavy as it used to be. Sometimes if everything I would carry to school is too heavy, I would rather carry an extra bag like a tote bag. I do not take all of my school books all at once because I'd rather follow my timetable for which teachers I'll be seeing on that day. I do always organize my school bag for the following day. I mostly organize my school bag for the following day the night before I go to school and sometimes in the morning before I go to school. I always organize my own school bag with not much help really needed. I believe carrying a heavy bag is really bad for us as children, mainly because when your school bag is heavy, it causes a lot of pain on the lower part of your back and shoulders.
Hello, my name is Bukhansa Taka and I am in grade 7. My school bag is only heavy when I carry all my books. No, I don't carry everything I need at school in one bag. Yes, I do carry all the books I need to school. Yes, I do organize my school bag for the following day. I do that the day before. Nobody helps me organize my school bag. No, carrying a heavy bag is not a good thing to do because you can develop shoulder, neck and back pain.
My name is Asanda Chabalala. I'm 10 years old from Ekoli. I carry my books and lunch in my bag because it's spacious. I carry 10 books in my bag. I sometimes take all my books at school. No, I didn't know heavy books is bad for your back. If you carry heavy books, it can give you a backache.
My name is Katlon Onyane and I'm 12 years old. What I carry within my school bag is the books that I have to use on a specific day. I carry about 10 to 11 books in a school day, and I do use my timetable to carry all my books. I know having a heavy bag is extremely bad for you because you could have a lot of cramps, and that's very bad for you as a child having back cramps.
Hi there, my name is Duduetang Ndlovu. I'm 11 years old and I go to Mokoli House School. Within my school bag, I carry a pencil case, books that I need for the day, also for homework. I also carry 2 flip files, my library bag, and my lunch bag. Well, the books I carry depend on which lessons I have on the day and how much homework the teacher assigns us to. Yes, I do use a timetable, although that is during the day, as I don't keep all my books at home, because our desks provide an inside space for our books. Yes, I do know that a very heavy school bag is bad for your back, as it happens to me. Not very often, though. If your school bag is too heavy, your body could have gastric problems because you carry a lot of weight around your abdomen.
My name is Ranwachi Karanga. I am 9 years old. I am in grade 4. My bag is too heavy because I carry everything in one bag and I have to take all books at school every day. Every day when I came home, I organize my bag and my mom, she's the one who helped me a lot to organize my bag. To carry a heavy bag is bad because it hurts my back and it makes me feel tired every day. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Zonaka Malihasi. I live at Middleland Zone 7. My school is Sumbezo Primary and I'm at grade 5. I'm here to talk about my school bag. My school bag is too heavy. Yes, I carry everything I need at school in one bag. Yes, I take all my school books to school every day even though I don't need on that day. Yes, I organize my school bag for the following day. I put all my school books and pencil case in bag at evening and my lunch box in the morning. My mother helps me organize my school bag. No, carrying a heavy bag is not good because it hurts my shoulder, my arms, and my body. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dembe Ramadi. I carry books within my school bag. I carry 7 books to school every day. I have a locker, so I put the books I don't need in the locker. I do use my timetable to carry my books to school. Yes, I know it's extremely bad for your back to carry an extremely heavy bag to school. If you carry a heavy bag, you can break your back. Some of the things that can happen to your body if you carry a heavy school bag is that you can lose your balance and fall easily.
Hello friends and happy Monday. I trust your weekend was joyous and restful. As young kids, we all all want to be physically and mentally healthy. And good health is extremely important to us. It serves as the foundation for any joy. The purpose of today's topic is to inform us that carrying a heavy school bag or backpack to school can have a negative effect on our health and wellness. You might be wondering in what way? Well, continuously carrying a heavy school bag can lead to long-term back pain. A lot of children who carry heavy bags for an extended duration often experience fatigue and backache. Carrying a heavy bag can lead to a poor posture, including a hunched back and forward head position. Carrying a heavy bag can lead to a poor posture, including hunched back and forward head position. If a heavy school bag or backpack is regularly carried, they can lead to the development of spinal curvature or other deformities in children. Carrying around an excessively heavy bag is just as bad as consuming the incorrect food in any quantity. It leads to negative outcomes. Hence, it is important for your bags to be in line with your weight and size. Seek assistance from your parents and guardians in properly managing the weight of your school bags and backpacks. Packing and arranging your books can be quite challenging. Search for other options to reduce the burden on your bag. Try not to bring unnecessary items like school books, notebooks, and worksheets on days when you don't need them. To achieve this, review your weekly schedule in advance in order to plan which books and items to pack in the bag and which ones to leave out.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, over 40% of drinking water lost due to leaks and U.S. reaction after Niger revoked military accord. Good afternoon. Rand Waters says their reservoirs are running low because of what it maintains is high water consumption and leaks. The city of Johannesburg has been grappling with serious water outages for weeks now. Rand Waters spokesperson Makenosi Maru says they are currently losing over 45% of drinking water due to water leaks. The Water and Sanitation Department revealed that the amount of leaks in the water distribution systems in Gauteng has increased over the past 10 years due to a lack of maintenance of the distribution system by municipalities. Maru explains.
We are looking at over 40% of the water that we are purifying. If we did not have those leaks, we wouldn't have these problems. And I think this is where we're not even seeing the danger of it, because people would look at rainwater. What is rainwater doing? Rainwater, we are even abstracting more than our license allows so that we can feed water to municipalities. But if we're losing water in between before it even gets to the end user, that's where the problem is.
Member of the ANC's Local Government Intervention Subcommittee, David Mahlobo, says national government has deployed water boards in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal in an effort to deal with the water crisis. He was speaking at an ANC press briefing at Lituli House in Johannesburg today, where the party highlighted priority 4 of its election manifesto.
Those of us deployed in government, our ministry has decided that because these metros, they are struggling to perform this function. We have agreed with them to deploy our water boards, and very capable water boards, which is Rand Water for all the municipalities in Gauteng, working with the 3 metros and the others. But the Metro of Johannesburg, we know they have their own entity called Johannesburg Water. At eThekwini, we have deployed Umgeni, Uthubela Water Board to support them.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says South Africa has not only worked to advance the basic human rights of South Africans, but has also sought to play that role globally. Earlier this year, South Africa hauled Israel to the International Court of Justice over Israel's alleged violation of the Genocide Convention. South Africa presented before the World Court, amongst others, Israel's alleged intent to commit genocide in Gaza. Ramaphosa was speaking at the National Conference on 30 years of human rights in Boksburg, east of Gauteng.
At the heart of South Africa's case is the blatant violation of the human rights of Palestinians by the State of Israel. We felt, as South Africa, duty-bound to support the cause of the Palestinians in their quest not only for nationhood, but also to have their basic human rights protected, respected, and advanced.
Gauteng police have arrested a 51-year-old woman for allegedly helping her 32-year-old daughter bury her 2 newborn babies in a shallow grave in their yard in Temba, Pretoria. The incident occurred after the 32-year-old woman gave birth to triplets earlier this month. It's alleged that one of the babies was stillborn while another passed away after 2 days. The woman and her surviving baby have been taken to hospital for medical care. She has been charged with concealing the births and defeating the ends of justice. Her mother was obtained for obstructing justice. Police spokesperson Brenda Muradili says postmortems will be conducted to determine the baby's cause of deaths.
Following a visit by Department of Health home-based care officials, it is reported that the officials were alerted by community members that a woman has given birth at home and that she did not register the baby with the Department of Home Affairs. The police's crime scene investigation team was called to the scene. The remains of the 2 babies, a boy and a girl, were exhumed and taken to the government hospital.
And finally, the United States says it's in touch with the military junta in Niger after the West African nation revoked with immediate effect a military cooperation agreement with Washington. The accord allowed U.S. military personnel and civilian staff from the U.S. Department of Defense on its territory. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports that the move is likely to have repercussions for U.S. counter-terrorism efforts in the broader Sahel region.
The junta's decision follows a high-stakes visit to the country last week by the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Molly Fee, and head of the U.S. Africa Command, General Michael Langley, a visit which was not well received by the hosts. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said they were aware of the statement from Niger's ruling military council, known as the CNSP, following frank discussions at senior levels in Niamey about U.S. concerns with the military council's trajectory. Miller says they are in touch with the CNSP and would provide further updates as warranted. Nigerian officials described a condescending attitude from the American delegation in their discussions.
Recapping the top story, Rand Water says their reservoirs are running low because of what it maintains is high water consumption and leaks. The city of Johannesburg has been grappling with serious water outages for weeks now. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Did everything I never do in real life. I stepped into a room, told everyone to be quiet, cause I had something to say, blew everybody away, wear whatever I want. Dressed in a gown, everybody's like, why, where you going, nowhere special, just going to the store. I think I'd have it all, tell you I have even more. Licking the plate, being the plate, she is unruly. Never seen her like this, didn't think it existed, no truly. She's not here to play, she'll get moody. But don't mistake this girl for being me, cause these are dream rules. This is someone else, I'm not myself, no. Cause these are dream rules. This is someone else, I'm not myself, no. Problems disappear. She could tell you you the things you wanna hear. She could read your mind and that she could laugh of a little lies to tell yourself at night. Never get it wrong, it's always right. Making a plate, being a plate, she is on a routine. Never seen her like this, didn't think it existed, no truly. Don't get in the way, she's not here to play, she'll get moody. But don't mistake this girl for being me, 'cause these are dream rules. This is someone else, I'm not myself, no, no. 'Cause these are dream rules. This is someone else, I'm not myself, no, no. Living in my dreams, 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 living in my
There's nothing that I personally enjoy than discovering new artists and new music. I had no idea who was Mimi Bangora. Living in My Dreams is the name of the song, and my team snuck it in there. And, at first sort of instinct, I was like, oh, is this a new one by Shakana? But it gave all the feeling of nostalgia, of the current sound of Afro, what do they call it? Afro-futuristic R&B is the term that the likes of these kinds of artists sort of coined a few years ago before COVID. Apparently, she hails from Stockholm, Sweden. Don't look down on, the Scandi countries. They actually have quite an influence in the music industry. She's from Stockholm, Sweden, and this particular song came out from her album Ethereal, which was released last year. No, we've moved on from neo soul. The little birds that live in my ears were like saying, no, we've moved on. There was a new term, on the back of all these artists. Before the Thames, there was Snow Allegra and all these artists. They sort of borrow elements from neo soul, R&B, some jazz elements, and they mashed it all up and then created. Because it was music we haven't really heard before, right? But it sounded nostalgic somehow. You could kind of pick up other things that you were familiar with, but the sound was very fresh. And so they coined a new term pre-COVID years, Afrofuturism. It was part of that whole movement, Anyway, nice one. Thank you for sliding that into our playlist this afternoon as we start talking about how to make self-control effortless by choosing goals that light you up. Already the music's put me in a good mood. And now we are going to be looking at this conversation with life and business coach Sharon Peel. And we're looking at how we can really just use interesting measures and sort of tools that would help us firstly stay on track with our goals and also perhaps even enjoy the journey of getting to the goals, getting to the accomplishment of the goals. And we know we start the year off by setting all kinds of goals, whether small, whether big, and we try to look at implementation, intentions. We try to remove temptations from our environments. We try to build in new habits. And sometimes it's hard to keep that momentum going. And we thought we would get Sharon on the line to help us, as we enter the second quarter of the year. How are you doing, Sharon?
I'm well, thank you, Bridget, and you?
Great. Thank you very much. I'm great. And second quarter of the year, we normally start off in January with all the momentum and all the good intentions. But by the time we head towards the Easter break, ushering in the second quarter, a lot of us have fallen off the bandwagon, or we've lost that momentum, or even lost sight of the initial why we're doing something.
Yeah, that does happen typically, and especially, at the beginning of the year, you set a resolution rather than a goal. As you said, by February, March, it's kind of long forgotten. And we get busy with the, everyday life and so on, and our goals get left behind. So that's why I think the first step in towards achieving your goals is to firstly write it down. That's extremely important, and have a visual reminder of your goal as well. So put it somewhere where you can see it every day, whether you stick a little sticky note on your screen or in your car, or somewhere where you're going to look at it often. And the second thing I would say is to write your goals down as specifically as you can. And what I teach my clients is to use the SMART formula. And that is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And using that formula, you can really pinpoint exactly what it is that you want to achieve and how you're going to get there, how you're going to measure when you've achieved your goal, whether it's realistic and whether it's relevant to your life right now. And most importantly, that it's time-bound. So you need to put a deadline on it, so that you can ensure that you do reach that goal. Because otherwise, as you said, we kind of like forget about them, or we put it off and procrastinate and so on. So that ensures that you actually are working towards your goal, and you're gaining some momentum by, having an actual plan to reach your goal.
And some might argue, and I don't know, Sharon, if this is good advice or not, because some might argue that, focusing on just the goal and forgetting the why of why you set that intention in the first place could be the beginning of the downfall for you, is when you've lost sight of the why are you pursuing that goal or that intention.
I completely agree with that. Your why is very important. Why do you want to achieve this goal in the first place? What makes it so important? And ask yourself, how is your life going to change by achieving this goal? What is it going to bring you? What is it going to give you, in terms of your life or your career, whatever it is, whether it's a work-related goal or a personal goal? What is it that you're going to achieve from this goal? Because if it's not something that you really want, you're not going to be intrinsically motivated to pursue it. And then at the end of the day, you're actually not going to achieve it. And then, you might feel like a failure, or, that you're not good enough, and things like that. So it is important to remember your why you started in the first place. What does it mean to you? And life does happen, and things change, and maybe your circumstances change, and you no longer want to pursue that goal, then that's fine. But if it is something that you really want, I think it's important to keep that why, at the forefront of your mind, because that will also motivate you daily to work on your goal.
Absolutely. Now, I read that research showed that people are most likely to make progress on and, of course, accomplish goals that they enjoy or that are aligned with their values and self-concept. Now, I wonder, isn't just this the generalness of goals, is that you set a goal that is either aligned or something that you think is important and need to be accomplished? Or am I just assuming that we all set goals in the same kind of method?
Yeah, I think it is important that your goals are in line with your values. If it's not, you will find excuses not to work on it. So that's kind of like a red flag. So if you find yourself procrastinating and putting it off, and I'll do it tomorrow or next week or next month, I'll start working on it, You need to question why it is that you feel that way, that you're not fired up to achieve it. Is it something that you no longer wish to pursue, or is it not in line with your values? There is a reason behind it, so you need to look at that carefully. And that's why the SMART formula is a great tool to use, because it gives you, more specificity in terms of, what you want to achieve and why.
Let's take a quick break here, Sharon. We'll come back on the other side of this and continue our conversation.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Sihle Zikalala is proud to announce that the country will host Africa's largest sustainable infrastructure development symposiums from the 17th to the 19th of March at the Cape Town International Convention Centre, where President Cyril Ramaphosa will also deliver a keynote address. SIDSSA highlights include the showcasing of progress on South Africa's infrastructure investment plan as adopted by Cabinet, unveiling of a pipeline of the top 12 infrastructure priorities for project preparation and funding for 2024-2025's financial year, the launch of South Africa's construction book, as well as the new international partnerships and cooperations. This, of course, is all brought to you by Infrastructure South Africa, an entity of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. South African government leaving no one behind.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with Sharon Peel, who's a life and business coach, and we are touching base, of course, as we wrap up the first quarter of the year in just a matter of days, and we're looking at ways that perhaps we could make self-control and goal setting a little bit more effective and effortless, and maybe even a little bit more fun along the way. But truth be told, Sharon, some goals, there's no fun element in them. It's just a matter of priority and importance, and it needs to be done. So there's no way of injecting a fun strategy to everything that you've put on your goal list for the year.
That's true. It might not necessarily be, as you said, a fun goal. For instance, if you are studying towards a degree, or, studying in general, whatever course that you're enrolled in, it's not particularly fun to study, but again, that's where your why comes in. If you think about why you want to achieve this goal, is that degree going to take you further in your career? Then it is definitely worthwhile pursuing. So I think it's always important, as I mentioned earlier, to keep that why in the forefront of your mind, especially when it's really tough going and you maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed and you've got too much on your plate, and how am I going to do this, and it's just too much. And planning is key as well. Make sure that you plan your day around times when you can study or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, and work on your goal every day. Try and get excited about it and enthusiastic about the outcome.
I'm glad that you use studying as a goal, because a lot of people, are studying further, and a lot of people studying later on in life while juggling responsibilities of parenting, work, etc. And I happened to do that a couple of years ago, right? I was studying for my degree via UNISA whilst being on air at a very demanding station where we're often traveling and doing all kinds of things. And I remember once looking for sympathy with one of my colleagues, and I was going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to lug my suitcase full of school books and while going off to this tropical destination with people, and she looked at me and said, well, you must do what you have to do. Are you looking for me to tell you that there's a cheat sheet? Are you looking for me to empathize with you? You must do what you have to do because you set out to get this degree and it's very important to you. So now you will just manage your time and the expectations of yourselves accordingly, balancing responsibility of work and other commitments and school. But you must do what you have to do. And I think sometimes people will come on social media and, ask for all these strategies. How do you people who are working and studying, how do you get it done? And essentially do what you need to do to get your goal done.
Yeah. I think it's important as well, to have people that we can share our goals with, because they act as an accountability partner.
Yeah.
So, perhaps a partner or, a close friend or family member that's going to hold you accountable and make sure that you are working towards your goal, but also there to support and encourage you. So make sure that you surround yourself with people who want to see you succeed, who are cheering for you and, that you can cry on their shoulder when things get a bit overwhelming, but that they're also there to say, okay, now, what's your next step? And, what are you going to do next? Or, jump back on the horse kind of thing.
Absolutely. A little bit of tough love and a little bit of nurturing, all at different times.
Yeah.
And in terms of strategies, Sharon, because, is there science to this, sort of the intersection of goal pursuit versus motivation versus your ability, I guess, to self-control and self-govern?
I think time management is key, making sure that you have a plan of action and that you manage your time effectively so that you do have time to pursue your goal. And also, keep in mind that, as you say, we are busy, we have lots of things to do and on our plate, but I think to make it a priority is important. And not let those goals slip away so that by the end of the year you look back and you think, oh, another year's gone by and I haven't done what I set out to do.
Motivation is the other thing. We talk about motivation as a construct, but it's not often easy to self-motivate. The will might be there for you to continue on the journey of whatever the goal is, but that daily self-motivation, how do we kickstart that on the days when, it's just missing in action?
Yeah. I think, with goals, it's important as well to break them down into smaller steps. So, when I mentioned your plan of action, you can actually have mini goals or sub goals within that big goal, how to reach that. And tick those goals off as you go along, those little goals, and celebrate them. So when you've done the next step, reward yourself with something or, celebrate it in some way, announce it on, social media, I did this today, or I got this far, or I'm progressing. And that also helps to keep you motivated because other people will then also cheer you on and, help you to feel, okay, great, I am working towards this and, it's something I want to do, but it also becomes enjoyable then when you give yourself those little rewards along the way. So celebrate those small successes as you work towards your big goal.
And when you talk about breaking the big goal down into little goals and bite-sized chunks, does that also involve sort of, because some goals you can break down into sort of daily tasks of accomplishment, right? And then it becomes accumulative over time, and before you know it, it's done. Do those kinds of strategies work? I'm thinking about people who are in office environments, for instance, who believe in boxes, who will write the little to-dos of the day in the box and then scratch the box out as the day goes along to say, okay, it's all done.
Yeah, it actually does work. It gives you that sort of feel-good kind of little burst, that you've been productive, that you've achieved what you set out to do. So yes, you can break it down into a daily goal, just like you would with a to-do list at work, and tick them off as you go. And, if you set yourself block your time so that you include your goal, working on your goals within that time frame every day, even if it's just for 15, 20 minutes. It actually feels good to be able to say, well, I did work on my goal today. I'm still a long way off, but I'm getting there. That also builds momentum and keeps your motivation up.
Absolutely. And if you were listening to the conversation as we wrap it up, perhaps you want to actually write somewhere Sharon's SMART acronym, SMART, be specific. Let it be measurable, let it be attainable, realistic, and of course time bound. Sharon, I appreciate the time with you today, and of course all the hacks in as far as ensuring that goal setting becomes effortless. That was Sharon Peel, who's a life and business coach today. So as we prepare to wrap up the first quarter of the year, we're well into halfway through March, so blink, it's going to be 2 weeks' time. April is going to be in. If you did set out some goals and you're feeling like, perhaps they are teka-teka-ring and you're falling off the wagon a little bit, this could be a good time to reassess. Just sit back, reassess, take stock of where you are, take stock of some of the challenges that this first quarter of the year presented to you, and the hurdles that came along the way, because you also, I think you're allowed with goal setting to take 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards, just as long as you keep moving. You know what I mean? Just as long as you keep moving. And some goals take a little bit longer than others. And realistically, also some things you set out as goals, you could have every intention that this year is the year you're finally going to, renovate your house, and then things come along and shake your budget, that things that require a priority and to be attended to now. And then that goal has to be shifted to another time during the year, or even perhaps next year. And so you've got to give yourself a little bit of grace as well in as far as that is concerned. It's just gone 2:30. I think Nomalizo Mandela is standing by with our headline news.
Thanks, Bridget. Good afternoon. In the headlines, one man has died and another has been injured following a structural collapse in Amanzimtoti, south of Durban. Rand Water says their reservoirs are running low because of what it maintains is high water consumption and leaks. The city of Johannesburg has been grappling with serious water outages for weeks now. And chairperson of the ANC Local Government Intervention Subcommittee, Pak Stau, says the ANC will empower national and provincial government with more responsibility to support municipalities that are struggling to provide services to communities. I'll have details on these and other stories at 3.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
My apologies, and I don't know where my brain was at. That was Anne Musa coming through with your headline news. All right, we are going to be talking WorkWise, which is the latest game changer in project management solutions. Now, the platform is said to be all about efficacy, but with a touch of innovation that's set to transform how organizations operate. I know nothing about this platform, and so we thought we'd invite the CEO of So Imagine Solutions, the company that's behind WorkWise, Sean Denisa, to come through and clue us in. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, thank you. I guess maybe let's better understand the work that So Imagine Systems actually undertakes, so that we can have the context of how WorkWise came about.
Oh, yes, thanks, and good afternoon to the listeners. So Imagine Systems is a software development company. So most often, clients come to us where they have they're experiencing certain issues, or they want to improve their pipelines or their way of work, and make decisions quicker. So and then we spotted just a common pattern, and that even started with us internally, where we get all this work, we bring the work in, and then that now gives us a backlog or a task of items to do. And at the same time, we still need to grow our sales pipeline. without overwhelming the team internally, and so just all of that, and out of care for the well-being of our team's mental health, then that inspired Workwise.
Workwise, okay. So tell me, unpack for us more about Workwise. You say that it's not just another project management tool.
Yeah. So the most common pattern, I think, in businesses is that we always say time is money, and the team is pressured into delivering quicker, and the project management and the sales team and just the executives across the businesses don't necessarily have a clear sight of what the teams are working on and the difficulty or the challenges that they are encountering while delivering the project. So what we then did with Workwise was to integrate it with artificial intelligence. And with AI, the tool has the ability to gauge or to estimate the difficulty of the workload allocated to team members. And also it prioritizes the backlog based on the due date and the priorities or urgency. And also then what we did with that was to take note of the individual's capacity. Because if a person is overworked, then they will most likely not be able to deliver. And we also looked at some mental health stats, like published by the CDC, for example, where they say teams where they have a good mental health within the business, they deliver 35% better, quicker, and they do better quality work than other teams. So, with Workwise, we literally considered that, and that is what differentiates us from many other software applications out there.
Yeah, because I was actually going to ask, Uti, what is the differentiator from Workwise and other sort of project management software tools that are out in the market already?
In addition to what I just mentioned, Workwise is streamlined, and it's more like an all-in-one tool. That's why we call it, Workwise 360. 360, just to cover the holistic approach we do. So many other situations we came across where there are timesheets involved in businesses, like consulting businesses. Team members would perceive logging time as additional admin on top of the work that they already have on their plates. So with Workwise, when I start a task, all I need to do is click the start button, and I would click an end button when I'm done. So now I'm not sitting with lots of admin piling up for me, towards the end of the week. And also this ensures that the decision makers have sight of, how the project is being delivered, are there any backlogs, and so on. And then which also brings, better communication within the tool, because we have integrated with a chat interface, so you don't need to WhatsApp a person or use all these other extra tools. Everything sits within the application.
I see. Okay. So real-time communication, real-time connectivity for all team members within the organization and those involved in whatever project at that specific time.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. I think some things, for those of us who sit more on the creative side of life and don't have to deal with the administrative things, it's hard for us to envision how such tools work, and how they sort of aid to the efficacy of an office, because we've never really been in that situation. But for those who are, obviously, it sounds relatively easy. Is it user-friendly?
Yes, we made sure that it is easy to use. And our approach is sort of based on, the clients that we get, where most of our clients are not, IT companies. So, we don't want to overload them with additional things they need to do and, now needing technical expertise. But, so what I think I mentioned the start and end button we have there. And if I'm a project manager and I need some additional insights, as in is everything going according to plan and so on, I can use the chat functionality. Like, I can just chat with the AI. I'll basically ask it, how are we looking with this project? Are we on track? Do we need additional team members? And this also goes down into individual level, where you can prompt the AI bot questions from the individual. Like, is Sean performing okay? Is Sean overwhelmed? Things like that. So, yeah.
And do tools like this, do tools like WorkWise help in contributing and boosting overall company morale, perhaps, or even creating, I guess, better working environments?
Yeah, 100%. So, firstly, that will be the improved communication within the team. So everyone would be aware or know where we are. And they don't need to go to an extra tool to find out what's happening. And then, secondly, a person's performance is gauged based on what they've been delivering. So, all the stats are within the app. So, as an individual, I won't find myself in a situation where I feel like I'm over delivering, but I'm not, getting any recognition for that, because the tool already speaks for you. And also, the personalized feedback. I also mentioned the mental health, which relates to capacity management.
Yeah.
So, based on my ability to deliver, the rate at which I complete work versus what is on my plate, then the application can give the decision makers a view of, where Sean is setting. Am I okay? And just in general, happier team means better results.
Got you. Sean Danisa, thank you so much for unpacking your new system for us. That was Sean Danisa, CEO of So Imagine Solutions, and they are behind WorkWise, which is the latest game changer in project management solutions. As you heard, it's quite efficient, will help the organization that you run or own just run a little bit more smooth and maximizing on your human capacity, as well as issues around time and communication, etc., etc. It's just gone 22 at 3 o'clock. Let's take a quick break here, and then we'll come back on the other side of this.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business, started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 9922 395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Sihle Zikalala is proud to announce that the country will hold Africa's largest sustainable infrastructure development symposium. From the 17th to the 19th of March at the Cape Town International Convention Centre, where President Cyril Ramaphosa will also deliver a keynote address. SIDSSA highlights include the showcasing of progress on South Africa's infrastructure investment plan as adopted by Cabinet, unveiling of a pipeline of the top 12 infrastructure priorities for project preparation and funding for the 2024-2025 financial year, the launch of South Africa's construction book, as well as the new international partnerships and cooperations. Brought to you by Infrastructure South Africa, an entity of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, South African government, leaving no one behind.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
I've seen way too much of you today.
Really?
Way too much.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
How are you?
Baba. Hey, there's a camera person here. We're on air. The light is red. By the way, we've got camera controllers in our studio. It's a conversation here.
I love you.
Anyway, I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Creature of my own heart. How was the weekend?
How was the weekend? I went to church.
I mean, you say that like it's not a normal thing, clearly.
Yeah, for me, not.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to church, but I arrived late.
Okay, let me ask, what sparked you going to church this week?
I don't know, I just had this feeling. And I woke up and I told my partner, baby, I want to go to church today. Yes. And he said, let's go to church. With our domestic worker, we went together.
It's a family affair.
I went to my church, AME, yes. Got there and it was closed. And I'm like, why is it locked? Like, well, because you haven't been here for years. No, but then we went to another church and arrived there late, 30 minutes.
It's okay.
We got like 30 minutes, exactly. And I told them, like, listen, Mabati, amen, and that's what amen.
Yes.
Oksala, we were there. Masawabizo makama. I'm not
judging because Nami, I'm like you. I go to church when the Spirit moves me.
Yeah, yeah. It shouldn't feel like an obligation. Well,
or a chore.
Exactly.
What's coming up today?
Coming up on the show today, Vladimir Putin has been re-elected the president of Russia. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
Landslide victory, 87% of the votes that he secured.
I just saw someone tweeting, Uti, Vele, who was he running against?
Well, there were three other people actually that he was running against, who all got like single digits. But what I found interesting though is the voter turnout was actually really high. I think at around just over 70%, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow!
So which for me is an interesting story, because if the majority of the population, up to 74%, went out to go and vote, what does that tell you about their confidence in Vladimir Putin, the individual?
Right, yes, yeah. And actually, is there a succession plan after Vlad?
I don't know, because now he has also broken Stalin's record. Remember?
Yes.
When we always refer to the Stalingrad approach, yes, we're referring to Joseph Stalin, the former leader of the Russian Federation. And now he has surpassed that record as well. So Vladimir Putin remains in power. What does this mean for geopolitics? We'll be in conversation with Umusa Mdunge. And then also on the show this afternoon, we're looking and we're hoping to speak to somebody about the Jocelyn case. Another person has been arrested in that case. Turns out to be one of the friends of Jocelyn's mother. And according to the state, she has confessed. So there is a confession statement, and according to the reports as well, as the community members were shouting and chanting on her to speak the truth, and she said in a response, I will. So now we wait for that moment in the trial when it happens. Of course, now it's been postponed for bail application, and we're going to see what's going to happen during the bail application. So that's one of the stories that we're looking at this afternoon. And also what happened over the weekend in KwaZulu-Natal with the chairperson of the ANC snatching the mic from the Prime Minister of the Zulu Nation. That happened, Thulasizwe Buthelezi. And now just the whole, the conundrum is that one, you're dealing with politics. It's an election season. But the other one is that, but we're also speaking about the Zulu monarch here. What about protocol? And how protocol should be followed. So that's the conversation that we're having.
That whole situation just left me whole
Shouldn't have?
Well, I don't know, because also I feel like there's behind the scenes genesis of issues that you probably know more about, because on the one hand, the Prime Minister's IFP, and then obviously Uduma is ANC, and then it's just a whole lot of everything. But I think for the platform and what was going on and the gravitas of the situation, As an MC, regardless of where you are politically, government, as an MC professionally, a master of ceremony, you do not behave in that way.
Yes, actually, I was actually having the discussion with Naledi. Like, so would we do something like that ordinarily? And like, nah.
No.
And you know when sometimes somebody says, a speaker says, no, I'll be brief. That's most of the time that's our battle. Like, but your brief is not brief. And then you go and stand in front of the person, like give them a look.
There's such a way.
Yes. But anyway, we'll discuss that on Beyond the Headlines as well.
Alden Simpia today is coming through. 3 until 6 o'clock on Beyond the Headline.
Friend, yes? I nearly fainted when I read somewhere that the GEPF's minimum funding level is at 72%.
Really?
Only to realize that it was in 1996 when the GEPF was founded.
Okay.
I just saw my pension going.
You like drama, hey friend? Sure.
We've come a long way. GEPF's minimum funding level is at 110.1%. This means that the GEPF has R1.10 for every R1 it owes its retiring members. GEPF members are more than covered when they retire with the GEPF. Tomorrow shouldn't be a worry when today is done right. GEPF, your investment, your future.
LISA invites all South Africans to celebrate South African Library Week from March 18th until the 24th of 2024 under the theme Libraries Foster Social Cohesion. The week highlights the crucial role of libraries in uniting communities by offering access to information, technology, resources and programs fostering social cohesion and, of course, providing safe spaces for marginalized communities to address social and development issues.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Catching up now with the head of domestic tourism at South African Tourism, Mashudu Mukrete, as they embark on an unforgettable Easter adventure with South African Tourism. How are you doing today? Mashudu?
How are you?
Why are you not taking us on the road with you for Easter? I'm good. How are you?
One question at a time.
I must put you under pressure. So Easter is fast upon us, and of course we know that you guys at South African Tourism always embark on interesting and very exciting campaigns around this time of year. So what is on the cards for 2024?
For 2024, we are running our Seats at the Table Easter campaign. So the whole idea about this particular Easter campaign is that we want to showcase that you do not have to sit at home and cook 7 colors.
Mm. So if I'm not sitting endlessly cooking 7 colors with a seat at the table, what am I doing? Mashutu? Oh, we've lost. I think we've lost connection for a second. And apparently she did put a disclaimer to say that, the network where she currently is at is a little bit weak. She's somewhere in Cape Town, and the network in the area, in the vicinity, is a little bit weak. I'm going to see if we can try and get a hold of her again in our last 5 seconds, just to give us a rundown of this campaign. A Seat at the Table. That is the Short Left Easter campaign. That is the theme by South African Tourism, and I'm presuming that it's got to do with probably culinary adventures, right? Oh, that would be great. Okay, let's see if we got you back. Mashutu?
Yes, I'm here. Okay, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can. Let's try it again. So the Short Left Easter campaign this year is Seat at the Table. And I was just saying, as we were trying to get connected back to you, that I'm feeling a sense that y'all are alluding to culinary adventures here.
Definitely. We know Easter is very well known for families getting together and, sharing a meal. what we are just saying is that you don't need to share it in Mashoto's dining room. You can go out there and share this meal in, a picturesque place in South Africa. I mean, you know how beautiful our country is.
No, absolutely. And are there certain places that you guys have identified, just to make it a little bit easier? Because, like you said, beautiful country with a whole host of offerings.
And that's when I was going, I think it touched me because they knew that I was going to say something to you and you're going to remind me how I left you there and I'm in Cape Town. We just set our table, we just had MSC cruises. So we were showcasing that destination as a different destination for South Africans to do instead of just being home. So it could literally be anywhere. We did a cruise from Durban to Cape Town. That's how I'm in Cape Town at the moment. But it could be in Mpumalanga. It could be, in any other place in the Free State. That's what we're just saying. There's many places that you can go to, and we have those deals on shortleft.co.za.
Lovely stuff. For some of us who like to get on the road and like a road trip, this is very reminiscent of the bygone years when you'd get in the car for the holidays with your parents and cross provinces to get to your relatives for the long weekend. And along the way, you discover the little stoliki with the fat cook mamiki, the biltong guy, the hot dog guy, the hamburger guy. And it can be as simple as that, just enjoying what the route has to offer.
I have to be honest, you probably did the hamburgers. I did KFC-ish kind of chicken. But jokes aside, that's a beautiful thing about it. One of the trips, we've taken is to Limpopo. And when you pass through Limpopo, you pass a lot of people on everywhere, basically. And you can buy avocados, you can buy beautiful fruits, and as you're saying, your biltong, and have interesting restaurants that you actually will enjoy while you're actually headed there. We do know that road trips are definitely bigger in South Africa than flying. And it is because the adventure starts when you literally leave home. That's when the adventure starts, and it becomes the whole adventure even coming back. So, yeah. We're saying take your adventure. It's your country after all.
Yeah.
So enjoy it.
Short Left is where you've directed us to, where we can see some of the deals that you have curated. I like to also focus on lesser known provinces. We know people around the Easters, they pack the kids, they go to Durban, they go to the coast, they go to Cape Town. But some lesser known provinces that might surprise us over this school holidays?
What we've seen is a massive, massive jump in the number of people actually going to Limpopo. And I'm not talking about, for religious purposes only, but generally speaking, enjoying Limpopo. We've seen high numbers at Mpumalanga. As it stands, our top destinations for South Africans, believe it or not, Limpopo is number one, and number two is Eastern Cape, then it's KZN, and then Western Cape.
Very interesting.
So that's where we are seeing most people going because, as you said, we all pack our bags, go to the coast. But people are starting to see other places, and we are also showcasing a bit more different places so that people can actually see. We were just with the Minister of Tourism now, and she was talking about how we need to explore our townships and, our small dorpies because they bring the authentic experiences that we are all looking for.
Absolutely. I'm very, very surprised by, and I don't know why, but I think when we think of provinces or why people travel, we very rarely think about inland travel, for instance, to places like Limpopo, but there's so much to discover there. I went there a couple of years ago with Limpopo Tourism, and there was so much to do, especially if you are an adventure traveler.
Without a doubt. But also the beautiful thing about Limpopo is that it brings adventure and it brings those authentic experiences. Like, you kind of feel like home when you are in Limpopo. It's a very warm, besides the heat itself, but it's a warm province to actually visit because there's so much to do. But the people are also absolutely amazing, and that's why we've seen such great growth in going to Limpopo. But also the ease of access going into Limpopo. There's fixed roads going there, so now it is much more comfortable, as we were talking about road trips, much more comfortable to get into Limpopo and experience what, the warmth that is Limpopo.
Absolutely. One straight highway that's filled with all kinds of traffic officers, so you must adhere to the speed limit and all the safety protocols. Moshoto, thank you so much for the time. Do enjoy Cape Town. And since you didn't take us along with you to MSC this time, you definitely owe us a little something during the course of the year.
You are number one on my list.
We will take the show on the road for you.
Number one.
That was Moshoto Mokete, who is the head of domestic tourism at South African Tourism. And you can go check out what's on offer for their short-lived Easter campaign via, of course, the short-lived website. Seat at the table is the hashtag. So if you happen to be traveling and you want them to repost you, you know how it didn't happen unless it's documented on social media, make sure to use that hashtag Seat at the Table. They've also got hashtag TravelWise, a lot of travel tips that you can utilize when you are on short lift to make sure that you prioritize safety and responsible travel practices whilst hitting the road. And as you heard, a lot of us hit the road during the Easter break particularly, so we want you to get to where you're going and come back having had all the fun, but very much safe and in one piece. From myself and my team, we thank you for choosing to be in conversation with us. We will see you tomorrow between 1 and 3 o'clock. Inshallah, God willing, have a great day. And Musa is standing by with your 3 o'clock bulletin.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.